Today's guest on the Tech for Good podcast is Thomas Lingelback. He's the co-founder and CEO and president of specialty vaccine company Valneva. He's going to talk to us about the effect of climate change and what it means for communicable diseases. But he's also going to talk to us about what hope we have in terms of developing new prophylactic vaccine-based solutions to some of this, as well as some good news that's going to emerge that will certainly help those of us in the Northern Hemisphere deal with one of the most widely spread and most destructive vector-borne diseases of all. Welcome to the Tech for Good podcast. Now, we're here today to talk about climate change, about disease vectors, and about the work that your company that you lead is doing in this area, which is a very vague introduction. So I'll allow you to fill in the details for us. Tell us about Valneva. What are you up to? What's a brief elevator pitch story for the company?
Yeah, so great opportunity today. Thanks a lot. So we at Valneva, we are working towards our vision to ensure that we can protect lives by novel vaccine solutions. We are developing, commercializing vaccines in areas of high unmet medical need. And this is the key purpose and the key mission of the company.
Right. And tell us about the kind of diseases that fall into that category. So these are unmet medical needs. These are diseases that are extremely impactful in terms of the people that they affect, and they are spreading. Tell us a bit more about which diseases you're looking at.
Yeah, so basically our current focus of Valneva has been centering around, not only, but had been centering around vector-transmitted diseases. So diseases that are not spread directly human to human, but use a vector, and to transport the pathogens, be it viruses or bacteria. And as such, we have been playing in a niche that has not been well covered by other vaccine developers in the past. And we have already developed vaccines in this category from bench to licensure, actually to global licensure. And we have still a few more in our pipeline and in different stages of development, including also vaccines in this area that we are already successfully commercializing across the globe. This is not the only thing that Valneva does. So we are not only working on vector-transmitted diseases, but my understanding is today we're going to focus a bit more on the vector side.
Yes, exactly. And in particular, we're talking about how climate change is going, or is already playing a role in this, and why the importance of the sort of work that Valneva is doing is growing. So given that COP30 is happening in Brazil, it seems very appropriate to talk about what the effect of climate change is on vector-borne diseases. So in summary, what is the effect that climate change is having on those diseases? I mean, you might optimistically think, well, everything's warming up. Viruses don't do very well in warmer, but obviously that's not a particularly clever thing to say. So what is the effect of climate change, or has been over time, and what will it do in the future?
Yeah. So when we bridge, I think you touched a couple of key points. You talked about climate, you talked about vector, you've talked about the pathogens or disease. I think it's important to note that climate change has not resulted in new diseases coming up. We have not seen new pathogens or, new viruses, new bacteria that were not there before. But we are seeing those during different times and in different regions of the world and on our planet. And this has to do with a couple of factors. One has to do over the past 100+ years on human behavior. Humans have transported, vectors, be it mosquitoes, be it ticks, be it whatsoever, over the ocean in the 1800th century, for example, right? Um, and um, and also today, our travel behavior, our mobility, this is affecting, and it's one contributing component to vectors and vector transmission. Then you mentioned the point about climate. Most vectors like it warm and wet. Whether it's ticks, whether it's mosquitoes, whether it's flies in general. But what people sometimes do not understand, it is about the condition that they need to find in order to either survive the winter and or be faster in their reproduction cycle. So basically breeding, and these are the most important elements to it. And when it then comes to, if the vector has a shorter cycle in its reproduction, then also the pathogen that they have or they carry inside can breed and can incubate faster, and at a different pace. So this in combination results in the dramatic and really drastic explosion of those diseases, which then result in outbreaks and outbreak situations. And these days, I mean, you mentioned Zika, but I would say the most relevant example right now this year in 2025 is probably chikungunya, because what we currently see is, since 2004, we observed the first time how, outbreaks are, spreading across the globe right now. We are seeing chikungunya coming into Europe, for example, and there is always this difference that also many people do not necessarily understand. It's about, on the one hand side, people bring the vector with them, or they bring the pathogen with them, and then they are back in Europe, and the vector basically transports the virus or the bacteria from one infected human to another human.
Right.
This is different to the virus being locally present and locally circulating. But this is this difference is a difference that we are currently observing. So we are currently observing that we see outbreaks, and these outbreaks are caused by people who were not in a prior exposed area. So which means the vector brought it alone.
Right.
And it seems that those locally generated outbreaks are getting more and more, and the vectors manifest themselves into those areas. And we see it right now for chikungunya, as I said, in Spain, Italy, many parts of Southern Europe, France, and we talk more about ticks, because ticks is a specific other example, and it's probably the area where Valneva puts its most effort on right now, given that we are the most advanced company in the world, together with Pfizer, working on a vaccine against Lyme disease.
Right. And Lyme disease obviously is very well known and extremely problematic. And we're actually just on that. Where are you at, if you like, in terms of progress on the Lyme disease vaccine?
Yeah, so we are, as I said, it's a program that we started when I co-founded the company back more than 10 years ago. And it's something that we are doing in collaboration with Pfizer. And Pfizer are in charge of running the last and final pivotal phase 3 study, which is a placebo-controlled field efficacy study spanning over 3 tick seasons. So we are measuring in approximately 10,000 people, not only the effectiveness and safety of the vaccine after a first priming series, but also after booster, because for those diseases, for the type of diseases, you will likely need an annual booster to be protected. And we are currently at the very, very end of this study. So we have all people in the study got vaccinated. We have everyone in from 5 to 80 years of age, roughly. And we hope to get the readout soon. So we need to capture the Lyme cases until the end of the season, which is end of October for Lyme. And then you do the case adjudication, you do all the testing, database cleaning. It takes a couple of months, and then we hope to see the results. So end this year, early next year is certainly what we are looking for. And then we hope that we will be able to really provide a vaccine solution in an area of very high unmet medical need, because the Lyme is, from a severity perspective and from a clinical manifestation perspective, a very, very severe disease.
It is. Lyme ravages lives, and it does it a lot because it's.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Most people know someone. I know I do. So that's exciting. And just to go back to the climate change thing, is climate change, or you've described the mechanisms by which vector-borne diseases are essentially spreading their impact
Yes.
because of a warming world generally, and a wetter world in some cases. Does that affect tick-borne diseases as well? Is that?
Yes, yes. So we are for ticks. I mean, when you look at the spread of Lyme disease, yeah, you can clearly see that climate change is definitely one of the key, if not the only key contributor on the spread of Lyme disease. Because what we see with the ticks is that the ticks survive the winters. And you can directly correlate the winter survival with the spread of essentially the tick population. And then on top of that, you have a couple of contributing factors on the tick-transmitted diseases. And this is that ticks, depending on their stage of growth, they have different hosts, right? So, and the final host is, for example, the black deer. And you see also contributing factors like the overall deer population. Yeah, or other hosts at different stages of the larves. And but overall, I would say it's mainly the climate change and the fact that they survive the winters. The fact that it's warmer, and this is really, it's a slightly different nuance to mosquitoes, because as I said, there are different contributing factors. But when you look at Lyme disease right now, take the United States as an example, because CDC is probably the agency that has the best surveillance system in the world. And they report and show on the map all the time how, the confirmed tick or Lyme cases are evolving. And you see really Lyme going from east to west and going from north to south. And you see it from a year to year. And they even admit that they are approximately underreporting by a factor of 10. And the last confirmed case number on confirmed Lyme diseases that I saw for the United States was about half a million cases annually. So when you think about a 10x underreporting, and the fact that today about, let's say, roughly 100 million Americans live in Lyme endemic areas or high risk areas, and when you then think about, I don't know, 5 million out of a 100 million population, you are at close to 5%, which is a very, very big number for such a devastating disease.
Right. But there's good news on the horizon, hopefully.
Absolutely. I mean, we have devoted our enthusiasm, engagement, time, energy, and many investors have helped us to finance this endeavor. And we really hope that we will be able to provide a prophylactic vaccine solution in the next 2 years to people who need it most.
Absolutely, and it's tempting almost to get into politics, but I'm not going to do that because our audience is rational, I think. But I will talk about human factors because those are important.
Yes.
And human factors as far as climate change as well are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I know and I've read about Valneva is particularly active in is addressing the kind of the downstream stuff, if you like, when it comes to saying, well, we've got a vaccine now, we've got a way to save lives and prevent major ill health and so on. But actually getting that vaccine into communities, particularly in poorer communities or isolated communities, is obviously a major factor. Climate change actually potentially impacts the ability of companies or organizations, governments to actually even do that. So how would you characterize the challenges that the climate crisis brings us in that regard? Not just developing vaccines, but actually getting them to people as well.
Yeah, so first of all, I would say, unfortunately, most of the climate-related vector-transmitted diseases, or let's say rising vector-transmitted diseases due to climate changes, are highly endemic in low and medium income countries. And therefore the whole topic about affordable access in those countries is the key topic. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that you find ways to develop vaccines for those, I would say, neglected outbreak LMIC diseases, no matter how you want to call it. Vaccine development is very expensive, and you need to make sure that you get then also later the vaccines into those markets at affordable prices. And therefore, a number of key institutions have been developed over the years. CEPI is an excellent example for really ensuring that those diseases can be, or vaccines against those diseases can be developed. But there are many others. We are working in Europe on HERA, in the US, BARDA, Gates, Wellcome Trust. So many organizations have helped through non-dilutive funding to really get those vaccines into those countries. And by the end of the day, even the United States and FDA in particular, they developed years ago this priority review voucher program where they incentivized companies to work on diseases and vaccine developments where probably the return on investment is not what you would typically like to see in the world of pharma, for example.
Yeah.
So that's the one side of things. The other side of things is really how do you actually get those vaccines into those countries and into the distribution channels, because we are talking large countries, complex infrastructures, complex political and health economical systems. And Valneva, as a mid-sized company, has started from its very first day to do this through partnerships. So our first partnership was a company in India, and we were able to develop a Japanese encephalitis vaccine and get this vaccine through those partners, through this particular partner, into the endemic areas in Southeast Asia. We transferred our technology and we ensured and helped them with all the health economical analysis, with market access. And today, the vaccine is available, and we can proudly say that our Japanese encephalitis vaccine, which, by the way, is the only licensed vaccine against Japanese encephalitis in most parts of the world, um, to everyone where the virus is endemic. We are currently doing exactly the same with our vaccine against chikungunya, which is a vaccine that got financially supported in the development by CP. Um, and we have entered into partnerships with Butantan, the leading or one of the leading vaccine institutes in South America and Brazil, essentially here, and with the Serum Institute of India in Asia. And through those partners, we run a similar model. So we make our vaccine technology available. We help them locally build it up in order to be able to produce it as at an affordable price. And then, help them with market access, with programs to ensure that the vaccine really reaches those who can benefit most. And our ambition, and it's part of our very important ESG strategy. And in this case, it's of course the S part of the ESG. We really want to make sure that that whatever we develop is not gonna it's not gonna be a vaccine for a certain population, rich, healthy in the northern hemisphere, but also making sure that we get the vaccine to those who need it most. And that has been Valneva's key the part of its mission, of course.
Yeah. Cool. And what can you tell us about the E part of your ESG? Just bringing it back to our kind of COP30 anchor for our conversation. What's Valneva got to say there?
Yeah. So of course, for us, as I said, the main part of our ESG strategy is really centered around global access, and vaccination and affordable vaccines, and vaccines in areas of unmet medical need. On the E part, of course, the vaccine production is not an area where, as compared to other parts in the pharma, where you are dealing with a huge resource need when it comes to natural resources. Having said that, we are contributing, and we will contribute exactly to the same 2050 objective like others. We are already, but we are accelerating many things, or have already accelerated many things. I mean, our main manufacturing site is in Scotland. And the Scottish side is not only the single largest vaccine manufacturing site in Scotland and one of the top 3 in the UK, but it's also a site that has been awarded with many EH&S awards in the past. We have already started reducing things many years ago. We were one of the first companies in Scotland to have a zero to landfill waste structure. We are reducing energy wherever we can, and we are having probably the most important program for us is not so much electricity or water, because the total amount is not that material. But what is important is, unfortunately, this world of pharma manufacturing and vaccine manufacturing has turned into disposable techniques. Disposables means plastic. Okay. So and so this is the key program that we really have is to reduce plastic, to go into areas where we can use recycled material, where we can recycle material, big initiative around packaging of vaccines, for example, today. But these are just a couple of flashlights around what we are doing on the E part.
One thing that we hear about every day because we can't avoid it, and I'll ask you about Valneva's future roadmap in a minute and see if you can actually tell us anything about that or not. It might all be commercially sensitive, but one thing we hear about all the time is AI. And so I was just, since I've got you, I thought I might ask your views about AI and whether and how you think this is going to help in not just developing vaccines. I think there are fairly obvious ways that you can imagine AI might start to help in terms of essentially the chemistry or the microbiology of developing vaccines. But how it might help us understand the impact of climate change on vector diseases and things like that. Is it something that Valneva is actively looking at or using yet?
So I think there are areas where Valneva is already more or less active, right? I mean, as you know, we are a mid-sized biotech company. We're still a loss-making company, so we have to pick our battles on investments. And so essentially right now, I would say the main area where we are leveraging AI and where I see AI being leveraged more and more over the next 2-3 years, or let's call it more in the short term, is indeed what you said earlier, mentioned a little bit. I would say bioprocess engineering and identifying and mapping epitopes that could be used as targets for vaccine development. So everything around mimicking, those kind of things, modern protein engineering, I would say. This is the area where we are probably most advanced, where we are collaborating with a couple of academic institutes. We are collaborating with other smaller, companies. I would say this is probably an area or the area where we are focusing right now most. Having said that, there are many, mainly university institutes that are dealing with modeling the spread of vector-borne or vectors, and therefore, since the pathogens follow the vector, they are modeling the vector transmission, the vector evolution. And we talked earlier about CEPI. CEPI has set up a dedicated group that tries to model with the help of AI and predict essentially where and when next outbreaks are going to occur. So they are using right now, they are testing their systems and their models with the actual chikungunya situation across the globe, because it's an interesting showcase. But we are, working also with others. I mean, as you know, I am also the company is incorporated in France. I'm personally based in Vienna. And the University of Vienna was one of the first ones that did in the 90s a vector transmission model and a complete epi study on vectors, namely specifically focused on ticks. And they were looking at a disease called tick-borne encephalitis, which is a virus transmitted by ticks. And they were the first ones to publish a map and predict, how those ticks would spread over the years. And they have, of course, advanced this further and further over the years. There are student groups that work only with AI on it, and it's interesting, especially in those areas. I believe AI will revolutionize the work over the coming years, and I think it will eliminate many very comprehensive epi studies that have been done in the past. And this is why I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. There are lots of things I'm not looking forward to as far as the AI is concerned, and that primarily involves my position within the creative industries, which is something that's under threat. But in this regard, when it comes to science and when it comes to looking at climate change and the myriad challenges that poses, not just the science of climate itself, but also how on earth we go about mitigating the inevitable effects of it. It's really exciting. So it's good to know that Valneva's very much in tune with all of that. Now, just to wrap up, we're looking ahead to COP30 later in the year, but looking ahead even further, the future for Valneva. Obviously, you've got very exciting things going on with Lyme this year. But what can you tell us about your longer term roadmap?
So Valneva's strategy certainly is to become the leading vaccine biotech, and with a global vision and mission. And we would like, and this and the word biotech here is important. We believe that we have proven that we can develop vaccines against neglected diseases, vaccines in areas where big pharmas, for a variety of reasons, won't enter into because either the revenue potential is not big enough, or the ROI is not big enough, but there is a huge unmet medical need, and there is a huge public health need. And therefore, this is what we would like to do. So we would like to expand into new areas. We would like to further work on vectors. We have a couple of, we have not talked about a couple of things that are probably at the rise. We have, and it's still not covered through, either sufficient or appropriate vaccines. We didn't talk about things like, West Nile, just to use an example, right now coming up all the time. We are suffering from two decades of yellow fever shortage, which should not be the case, right? But we will also expand into areas like, enteric diseases, because we see, many children, especially in low, medium income countries, dying because of diarrheal diseases. It's one of the top 3 causes of death. And this, alongside with antibiotic resistance, also forces the need to go into vaccine developments in the world of enteric diseases. And we know that many of those diseases, at least in theory, are vaccine preventable. And this is certainly another area where we'd like to go into. But we are very adamant about retaining our purpose. We hope that we will be able to continue, attracting funding, be it, public funding, be it investors who share our vision, share our clear excitement on our purpose, and this is what we would like to do.
Well, all I can say is good luck, because these are important and growing areas of study and challenges that need to be tackled, and folks like you who are not just able to actually deliver against this, but even going back 10 years, start companies with the intention of doing that. I think it's inspiring to be able to talk to you today. Anyone who's watching this can go and find out some more information on techforgood.net. We will include links, obviously, to the Valneva website, but also hopefully we'll find a way to bring some more content around these topics to bear as well. In the meantime, good luck. I don't know if you're going to be actually traveling to COP30 later this year, but I'm sure places on planes and hotels are quite limited. But as things develop, as the climate crisis continues to challenge us, it's good to know that you're there and that your team is working against mitigating some of the worst impacts of it from a disease perspective. So thank you very much again for joining
Thank
me
you.
today.
Much appreciated. Thank you for your time.